Most people think the future of work is about jobs disappearing. It's not. It's about jobs changing and evolving while we need to change and evolve our work identity. For decades, we built our sense of self around predictable career paths and institutional promises. Study this, become that, progress steadily, and earn stability that way. AI didn't just disrupt jobs and tasks. It disrupted the story we tell ourselves about who we are and why we matter. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The people who will feel displaced the most in the next few years won't be the least skilled. They'll be the most skilled and thus attached to who they used to be at work. Welcome to Loop Season 1, where we're talking AI disruption in the workplace, future of work, and the role of personal identity in professional contexts. I'm your host, Josh Thompson-Prasad, co-founder of WorkSelf, and I'm here with my fellow co-founder, Wolf Magdalenic. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Josh.
Today is the big frame, what's actually changing and what people are getting wrong about AI and the future of work. So, and we're going to jump right into this. Tell me, Wolf, when people say AI is changing work, what do they really mean?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's a multifaceted answer to it, but AI is definitely capability that is disrupting a lot of functions and tasks that we can now do faster. We can do with higher quality, more velocity of the output. But it's also displacing entire careers. Professionals that have been practicing certain skill set or expertise in industries for years all of a sudden find themselves, being inferior to the output that the AI can do in a minute. And that is sometimes hard to make sense of. So the question becomes, who will thrive in this new environment where AI is having a huge impact on all of our jobs and industries?
Yeah, and can you give me some examples of these, industries that are being disrupted and how?
Well, we've seen professional services, massive layoffs at companies like Accenture in consulting. We've also seen new graduate recruitment being slashed, sometimes by half in Fortune 500 companies. And the trend is still unfolding. I think what 2026 brings in terms of further labor transformation and displacement is yet to be seen. But I think one is inevitable that we all need to think about how do we build ourselves in this new world where we can have intelligence in our pocket and we could be an accountant, doctor, a lawyer if we wanted in terms of the technical capability that AI brings to us. But does that mean that we are ready as people with self-alignment and a career path that we feel comfortable with?
Yeah, and speaking of this what almost sounds like a conflict between human and an AI. What's your perspective on that? Is it human versus AI? Is it human and AI? Is it human or AI?
I think it has to be integrative, and it has to be, how do we harness the power and the good things about the technological advancement that's been given to us and not lose the self part and kind of integrate both into our forward thinking career evolution. So if I was, let's say, an example, accountant and practice accountant for 20 years, now does it mean that my transferable skill set, my job, my exact function stays the same? Can I harness the power of AI so I don't have to do actually manual accounts reconciliation, but still, feel good about being numbers driven, interpreting patterns, communicating and relating to other people that I'm presenting these results and reports to. So there is an element where I still need to thrive and differentiate myself in light of the fact that function, baseline function, is being automated.
Yeah, and what are those points of differentiation and sort of moving into this, AI infused future?
So if you think about infinite technological potential, a lot of output velocity, any function really. You can reconcile accounts, as we said. You can do consulting reports, really click of a button with proper training and proper prompting with AI. Now, the question is, where does that leave us in terms of differentiating against or competing with somebody who has equal capability on the other side? And differentiating things that come to mind are more human skills to comprehend and present patterns and results with empathy, to relate and market to other humans that also empathetically process information, to have taste, something that AI is not good at yet, by way of connecting tangible and intangible information and packaging it in a way that other humans like to consume. I think going forward, these differentiating skills are going to be more important when everybody has infinite, tech output velocity capability.
Yeah, and speaking of those people who are sort of in these roles where, maybe they have a skill set that is likely to be replaced, and I can imagine these people might feel scared about this future that they're kind of coming into. There's obviously a lot of identity disruption that's going on there with, okay, I'm an accountant, but what does that mean in a world where I can, process everything through, ChatGPT or whatever other LLM? So what is it that you would give to those people who are feeling scared right now? What should they do to get ahead of this change?
Thinking about it proactively, I think it's about continuous learning, or embracing the state of flux. The notion of career stability is just not with us anymore. And if you take that as an opportunity, you can really play and thrive in different industries, in different functions, and really enrich your exposure and experience. But in order to do that successfully, you will have to learn and embrace learning continuously. Another thing that is important is just being very adaptable to context, output. Intelligence alone or technological capability is somewhat commoditized, and those differentiating skills that are more humane, that are more, about relating, empathetically communicating, are extra that I would add to continuous learning and being adaptable.
Yeah, and at WorkStuff we talk a lot about identity coherence, or this idea of bringing together the different parts of the selves. You have the work part and the personal part, or the self part. How do people manage those two sort of competing identities in this world that's been disrupted by AI?
Because of the lack of career stability, or things are in flux, I think oftentimes we prioritize things that are more tangible, perhaps. A lot of people identify and relate to a job title, a function, a logo, or company they worked for, as opposed to holistically the integrative, self, talent, natural desires and inclinations, almost like looking at the career path as a calling. So how do you integrate it well? Well, it's multifaceted, but I think starting small is important, and building loops that help you practice certain behaviors. They're intentional, that incorporate your natural strengths or needs to feel productive in an environment. So I'll give you an example for myself. The work archetype that after I've explored through a number of questionnaires and learned I am is ladder climber.
Yeah.
But the self archetype is more on the side of wanting to be empathetic leader or develop skills to practice empathetic leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So integration could come in loops where I am practicing my productivity work stints during the day in combination with rituals or mini interventions, either through journaling, breath work, focusing, signing on and off through my productivity stints, so I can actually stack these intentional periods of time into a loop that it's working for me and playing to my strength both in my work archetype and self archetype.
Yeah, so it sounds like a real balancing act of, putting these two things together, understanding what each of them needs, and then feeding them and creating an environment that allows them to flourish. And so we've talked before about the idea of identity being part of your work. And I think we've spoken personally about your experience with, a prior company of understanding how that impact played out in reality and that need for separation. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's not a secret that I confessed to my friends for a number of years that in my entrepreneurial journey with my first company, I had to be taught through therapy that if my business fails or dies, let's say, I don't die.
Yeah.
Because my whole identity was tied to it. And it was a necessary and hard and slow learning. But coming on top now, years later, I believe it's something that maybe a lot of people in this day and age could experience if they've tied their identity strongly to the job function, company, and maybe too narrowly. It's a risk because careers are in flux, jobs are in flux. We're, I think, going forward, not really going to think about a lifetime career anymore. We can actually have much more frequent context switching with more learning, more exposure, but it will require that adaptability and a not so narrowly defined identity.
Yeah, I think that's a really relevant struggle right now of, how we move through this period of what is not just change, but also in a way grief. It's loss. It's loss of, as you said, stability, loss of identity, loss of certainty over the future. And, what's a piece of advice that you would give to, as somebody who's been through that process, that you would give to people who are going through that now?
Staying really practical and starting small and designing incremental steps. This is take it day by day or take it even minute by minute, If I want to get somewhere, I want to have visibility towards my long term, but I will get overwhelmed if I think always, a year or 5 years in advance, because I need to do something about it today. And these micro steps, coupled with my long-term intention, I think are a very powerful stack or a loop that everybody should practice or start practicing, because continuous learning will be a necessity for all of us.
Yeah. And just to give us some excitement or some flavor for the next year, the coming year, what's one prediction about the future of work in 2026 that you're going to give us now?
Well, didn't I give a couple already? We talked about, lack of career stability. I think careers are in flux. What it means to have a career could be a multifaceted thing, comprised of, different expertise, different industries, different job functions. Because we have intelligence in the pocket that's kind of going to do the baseline work pretty well. But that said, another prediction could be massive labor transformation, where there will be impact on jobs, and I think people will need to learn how to thrive, how to rebuild their loops, and how to practice new how to practice to become intentionally in an environment where they could do many different things as opposed to just one.
Yeah, so it almost seems like a refining of your intention, or a reconstituting of your identity. And I'm sure that will be a challenging, but I think speaking from experience, one of the most rewarding things that you can do for yourself.
Absolutely. And just to add, and sometimes it's clear what those career paths could be. Sometimes we have an opportunity to consider some exotic ones. And whether you pursue them or not is, beside the point. It's looking to the whole spectrum of things that you could do with the powerful, intelligence and AI in your pocket is, I think, a very healthy thinking process. And then ruling out things that perhaps are functionally possible for you to do, but are maybe not as in tune with yourself. And that's why that self part comes as a really good guidepost to rule out career paths that perhaps, functionally are entirely possible, but are not as strongly correlated with my, values, my desires, natural energy, motivators, or drains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked a lot about the disruption that's going on now, and I think as a final question for this episode, it might be worthwhile defining what is the threat and what is the opportunity that people who are experiencing career change in 2026 have before them.
Well, threat is I'm going to be displaced. My job is going to be automated. And I think that threat, fortunately or unfortunately, is present for more or less all of us. But at the same time, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to reevaluate what I'm really wanting from my work, what my view of my legacy, of my career progression is really about, and play to my strengths, and then build intentionally and go forward knowing that I need to, be adaptable and go through this continuous learning. But it's also wonderful opportunity to experiment and acquire knowledge that just wasn't at the table before.
Yeah, I think that's, the beauty of it is we're being thrust into, in a way, a period of transformation. And, the opportunity is being given to us. Do we want to transform with it? And, as a career coach, I think that's a really fantastic reframing of how you can look at this period of disruption. So if stable careers are fading, your new job is building a self that can adapt. Next episode, we're going to go deeper into identity formation and how it actually works. Till then, stay well and keep closing your loops.